Champagne towers worth tens of thousands of dollars, luxury timepieces on the wrists of young men, and single-night bills running into millions of yen. On the surface, running a host club in Japan looks like an absolute money printer. Buy wholesale alcohol, mark it up by 10 or 20 times, and operate in a venue filled with laughter and constant praise. But if this business model were simply about selling overpriced drinks, why do most independent host clubs fail within their first 2 years? Why do owners hand over the lion's share of revenue to their staff? And why do customers willingly stack up massive debts just to return week after week? The truth is, a host club is not in the beverage business. It is a finely tuned financial machine built on behavioral psychology, where the product being priced is not the quality of the alcohol, but emotional validation. Let us break down the economics behind one of the most unusual and expensive nightlife business models in the world. To understand the financial equation of a host club, we first need to look at the cost of entry. The host club industry in Japan is clearly stratified into 3 main tiers: casual clubs located in suburban areas or quiet alleyways, mid-tier venues in major entertainment districts, and top-tier clubs concentrated primarily in Kabukicho, Tokyo, or Minami, Osaka, which set the standard for the entire industry. For a mid to high-tier club in Kabukicho spanning roughly 100 to 150 square meters, initial capital requirements are substantial. First, there are location and legal costs. Commercial security deposits in these prime areas typically require 6 to 12 months of rent up front, alongside mandatory legal procedures to operate under nightlife entertainment licenses. Second is interior design and audio-visual installation. High-end host clubs demand a luxurious atmosphere featuring leather sofas, glass tables, spot lighting systems, and high-quality soundproofing. Customers are buying a sense of luxury, meaning a cheap presentation guarantees failure from day one. Third, and by far the largest hidden cost, is host recruitment and retention. Unlike traditional restaurants where labor is a variable operational expense, top-performing hosts are the core revenue-generating assets. To recruit a top host who brings an existing client base from another venue, owners often pay significant signing bonuses or guarantee exceptionally high minimum commissions. In total, starting capital for a standard host club ranges from tens of millions to hundreds of millions of yen, equivalent to hundreds of thousands to over $1 million US. But opening the doors is only the beginning. Survival depends entirely on how the club recovers that capital. If you look at a host club menu, the pricing appears absurd. A standard bottle of champagne, retailing for around 5,000 yen, or roughly $35, might be listed in the club for 50,000 to 100,000 yen. High-end vintage or limited editions can easily reach millions of yen. However, simply marking up drinks is not enough to generate explosive revenue. The financial engine relies on 3 core pillars. Pillar 1, multi-layered service fees. A customer bill consists of far more than just alcohol. It includes table fees, nomination fees to select a specific host, service charges ranging from 20 to 30% on the total bill, alongside consumption and entertainment taxes. This means even if a client orders the cheapest bottle of water, the final bill multiplies significantly through these fixed percentages. Pillar 2, champagne towers and special events. The champagne tower is perhaps the most brilliant financial invention in this industry. It is a tiered structure of glass flutes, requiring anywhere from several bottles to dozens of bottles poured from the top down, with prices ranging from thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. But clients do not order champagne towers to drink them. They order them for the champagne call. When a tower is ordered, every host in the club gathers around the table, plays custom music, claps, and chants to honor that specific guest. For 5 minutes, that client becomes the absolute center of the universe. It is the pure commercialization of attention. Pillar 3, the revenue-sharing model with hosts. Club owners rarely pay high base salaries. Instead, they utilize a back percentage commission system. A newly hired host might only receive 40 to 50% of the revenue they generate. But a top host can negotiate commissions up to 60 or 70%, or even higher. In essence, the owner operates like a platform manager. The venue provides the space, licenses, inventory, security, and administration, while hosts operate as independent entrepreneurs, bringing in their own client networks. So the question arises, what drives customers to pay for such an outrageously expensive ecosystem? Modern economics suggests that any business generating extraordinary profit margins must rely on a powerful psychological drive. For host clubs, that driver is validation and gamification. While client demographics vary, the group contributing the bulk of revenue often includes workers from the nightlife industry, young working professionals with disposable savings, or individuals experiencing intense social pressure. Host clubs address a real social issue, loneliness, and a deficit of emotional recognition. Upon entering, clients are treated as the most important person in the room. Hosts do not just listen. They memorize fine details about a client's preferences, routines, and emotional states. This attention is hyper-personalized. However, the true mechanism that drives continuous spending is the ranking system. Every host club publicly displays monthly sales rankings on their website, social media, and inside the venue itself. For a client, the status of their preferred host depends directly on how much money they spend. To help their host reach or maintain the #1 spot, a client must spend more than the clients of competing hosts. At this point, spending transforms into competitive gaming. Purchasing an expensive bottle is no longer a simple beverage transaction. It is a score added to a leaderboard to protect the host's rank, indirectly validating the client's own self-worth. This interplay between personal emotional connection and public competition creates a highly lucrative spending loop, but one that carries severe social and financial risks. Despite its impressive revenue mechanics, the host club industry harbors a systemic financial flaw. That flaw is called Urikake, or the credit sales system. Urikake is an arrangement where a host allows a client to put their bill on tab, promising to pay the following month. In theory, this inflates monthly revenue and boosts the host up the leaderboard. However, the legal and financial liability for unpaid tabs falls directly on the individual host. If the client fails to pay, the host must cover the loss out of pocket to the club. Over time, this system has generated severe societal fallout. Many young clients, eager to support their favorite host's rank, accumulated millions of yen in Urikake debt, falling into severe financial traps. Rising bad debts and public backlash eventually forced Japanese law enforcement and regulatory authorities to intervene with strict oversight and frequent administrative inspections in districts like Kabukicho. Many host clubs went under not from a lack of clients, but due to severe cash flow disruption. Revenue looked impressive on paper, thanks to Urikake invoices, but actual cash collection was insufficient to cover rent, supply costs, and operational staff payroll. When regulations tightened on credit sales and source of funds, clubs relying heavily on the Urikake model collapsed rapidly. The lesson here is clear. A business model built excessively on leveraging the personal debt of its customers will always face extreme regulatory and reputational hazards. To summarize, let us look at the simplified economic breakdown of an average host club. Monthly revenue equals the number of clients multiplied by average spend per visit, plus special event sales like birthdays and champagne towers. Operational expenses consist of rent and utilities at 10 to 15%, cost of goods sold for alcohol at 10 to 15% due to high markups, host commissions at 50 to 60%, administrative and security staff at 5 to 10%, and marketing, taxes, plus bad debt reserves making up the remaining 10%. In an optimistic scenario, a club holding 2 or 3 top-tier hosts, capable of driving consistent cash flow, can achieve net profit margins of 15 to 25%, a highly attractive return in the hospitality sector. In reality, newly established clubs face a massive risk of losing top hosts to competitors. When a star host leaves, they almost always take their loyal client base with them. Combined with bad debt losses from credit sales, net margins can quickly turn negative, forcing closures within 12 to 18 months. Host clubs are a stark example of modern commercial dynamics. Sometimes, the most valuable product is not something you can hold in your hand, but the feeling of being heard and elevated. Yet when a business turns human emotion into an auctioned commodity, the line between a high-margin service industry and a systemic financial hazard becomes razor thin.